Howdy folks, it's Darcy from the Purposeful and welcome back to another edition of Drycember, where we're taking a bite-sized chunk out of learning to dehydrate all month long. And today we're talking about, should you run your machine outside and why? Okay, so here's a list of foods that you might want to consider drying outside. Garlic, onion, peppers, kale, mushroom, broccoli, cauliflower, did I say peppers? Pickles, that's a good chunk of them. Those things that have a strong smell when you're cooking them will also have a very strong smell when you're dehydrating them. Some of these things are really funky. They smell like, I don't know, like the bottom of a gym bag. Some of those things can actually put off oils into the air that can cause irritation. Some of those things just have a really strong smell. So some options for you are to open up the windows and the doors and run the vent in your kitchen to help move that air through your house so it's just not staying in your room. Move your machine to another part of the house, close off the door so it just stays in that room, open a window and it kind of goes all out that way. Another option is to run it outside, okay? So before we get started on any of that, a caution that I want to give you, if you have someone in your home with lung problems, make sure that you're checking with them as you're drying things to see if there's an issue. People with COPD, with emphysema, with asthma, or with any kind of breathing issues may be affected by those strong smells inside the home. I'll give you an example. For me, I have asthma, and running hot peppers or any kind of food with lots of oils like that inside the house can actually cause some distress for me that I end up coughing a lot and may have to end up using my inhaler. So we know that if we're doing hot peppers, those things have to go outside because we can't do them inside. I'm not generally affected by garlic or any of the other kind of things, but peppers do tend to be the problem for me. So check with those people in your home if you have someone like that to make sure they're comfortable with your drying. But if you're choosing to go outside, here are some things that you need to consider. In your garage space, is it clean and is it free from chemicals? If you have a lot of chemical storage, or if your garage happens to be very dusty, that is going to be pulled into your food and onto your food. So you have to make that choice about whether or not you want to do that. Now, if you decide to dry those foods outside, here are some things to consider. First, an improved power source to plug your machine into. Again, go back and look at your manual, see what it suggests, and take any kind of proper precautions about plugging your machine into a power source outside. The next thing to consider is the temperature of the air. If your temperature is very low, and I consider anything below 60 or 50 being something that you have to take into consideration, you're pulling cold air into your machine that's trying to warm that air up to a proper temperature to dry your food safely and efficiently. If it's really cold, your machine has to work very hard at trying to get that temperature up. When you get into really cold temperatures, your machine can't keep up. So you're not really drying your food well. You're also stressing your machine more than it needs to be stressed. And causing problems down the road for wearing that machine out faster. So if you've got super cold weather, I would suggest you not do it. You might either reschedule your drying or figure out another way to do it. The next thing is going to be the humidity in the air. If it's very humid, what you've got is very moist air. When you're trying to take moist air from your machine and put it out, it can't really do that because there's nowhere for it to go. So if your humidity is running very high and you're drying outside, understand that's going to take a lot longer to dry. So that might also be a time that you want to reschedule that time. The last thing to consider is pollution. Now, most of us live in an area where we're used to the pollution that's in the air, but if you live someplace where there's a lot of air pollution or there are wildfires in the area near you, those are probably the times that you don't want to dry because that stuff is being pulled into your machine, okay? So, choosing to dry outside for a lot of people, those really heavy smells, they just prefer to dry outside, and that's a great way to do it. Just make sure that you take those precautions, that you think about those situations, and that you adjust accordingly. So, thanks for watching today. If you missed yesterday's video, I'll have it right here. I've got the entire series for you here. You can subscribe to my channel here to see everything that we do throughout the rest of the year. And thank you again for joining us for another edition of Drycember, and I'll see you again tomorrow.